Welcome back to SnowRunner, guys, and in this video we are going to be going in depth on what is the final update to the public test server in terms of Phase 3. We're going to be going over some of my personal favorite trucks that are coming in Phase 3 or getting updated for Phase 3, and we're going to be talking about some of the final changes to the PTS that have been going on before Phase 3 goes live. And as of this point, I'm expecting we are only a few weeks away. So with that being said, stay tuned for the rest of the video and we're going to go in depth. Now, this video follows shortly after a couple of very interesting updates from the developers. Mainly, one that Asorkin actually put out on the official Discord, as well as a full release on the forums by Jellyfoosh of everything that was getting pushed into this update of the PTS, which is currently on 12.6. Now, right out of the gate, before we talk about any of that, we're going to talk about the Pacific P512 for a second, because we talked about this truck a lot on my channel as of recently, and definitely a lot over the past few weeks. And as you can see, as of this update, it still only has one wheel and tire option, which is kind of one of those things that I was hoping for a little bit more, but what I am very, very grateful for is the Engageable Diff lock. Now, unfortunately, this truck still has no all-wheel drive, so as far as it goes right now, I'm pretty much expecting it to not have a driven front axle when Phase 3 goes live. However, it does look like you are getting rear diff lock, which means lockers in both of the rear axles. And while having a driven front axle would be nice, I definitely think that with the 51-inch tires and the locked rear axles, I think this thing will be able to get to many, many, many places that a lot of other trucks can't. I think the only areas where it's going to really have some issues are steep hills, where being able to put the power down to the rear as well as the front would really, really help it. But, you know, with that being said, I'm still very excited to use this truck in campaign playthrough scenarios once Phase 3 launches, and I still think that even with no driven front axle, I'm definitely going to be still using this truck a good bit, because really, I do love the way it looks, I love the way it sounds, and I do think it helps bring in this new era of logging into the SnowRunner space. Now, obviously, logging is nothing new to this franchise. We had it back in MudRunner. It was the biggest component of MudRunner if you're talking about it from a campaign standpoint, but having it here in SnowRunner definitely allows for us to explore the capabilities of logging a little bit more in depth. Now let's go ahead and take a moment to dive into the changes and what makes this particular patch the final patch before the launch of Phase 3 to the PTS. So kicking us off, one of the biggest things that I wanted to talk about with this is they've said they've got numerous art, gameplay, and localization fixes for the Phase 3 maps. Fixed a bug where cursor could stay stuck when visualizing contracts list with a lot of objectives. Fixed a bug where the move to garage message was displayed in the watchtower zone after completing the tutorial. I personally experienced that one. Fixed a bug where generators turn on and off state was not updated immediately in the crafting menu for both host and clients. Fixed a bug where only the owner of the generator trailer could craft cargo in co-op after turning it on, and fixed a bug where long logs did not unpack when log carrier rear was detached. And you guys may have seen some pictures of people hauling the long logs around, but they were just basically dragging them like a log skidder and didn't have anything like on the back of the truck. There was nothing attached to the truck. That was that glitch. Now, trucks-wise, we have minor model improvements for the Pacific P512. We have a fixed bug where it was impossible to attach the trailer with add-on and crane installed to the Pacific P512, and fixed a bug where it was impossible to attach the trailer with add-on and crane installed on the International Paystar 5070. Now, moving on to the last section here, we have some mod browser fixes, including fixed a bug where the mod browser option was unavailable if the game was started with no internet connection, fixed a bug where a warning message of limited functionality in mod browser appeared while changing pages without an internet connection, and finally, fixed a bug where mod size in mods required pop-up was not accurate in some cases. So those are all really, really good fixes to see, although they are a little bit like, I think some people might view those as like a little bit small, but I think in the grand scheme of things, a lot of small fixes really do contribute to an overall much better game. Now, obviously, the truck we're seeing on the screen right now, the Pacific P16, is a truck that a lot of people are very, very fond of, and it's a truck that a lot of people were looking forward to using for logging purposes in the upcoming Phase 3 update. Now, as of right now, as of what is considered the final patch to the PTS, this has not been given the front log carrier. However, However, it does have saddle high, and what saddle high allows us to do is, even though we cannot use this truck at the moment to do like long logs or anything that requires individual log loading, we can still use it to haul the Sequoia. Now, what is the Sequoia? If you haven't seen, the Sequoia is basically a giant tree trunk. Think back to the crazy huge tree trunk that I hauled in the original spin tires, if you guys have been on my channel for that long. Now, this tree is actually a really cool load to haul, and you do need a very large trailer for it. Now, experimenting around, I've found that one of the best trailers to do it with is the 5-unit wide, which is obviously the one that you used to haul the plane, or I should say the plane parts. However, when I was experimenting around with this, I tried the 8-unit super heavy, and unless you have a bunch of other things you need to carry at the same time, the 8-unit super heavy is a little bit overkill, a little bit over the top, and not necessarily something that I would personally recommend. And as you can see, once we put the Sequoia on the back of the trailer, you can see how overdone that 8-unit super heavy is, and you can also see why I chose to go with the 5-unit wide. Now, the other advantage of the 5-unit wide, and also, by the way, railroad sections are something that I would also recommend using the 5-unit wide for, because both the Sequoia and the railroad sections are 5-unit options. Now, at this point, I would love to get some feedback from you guys, especially if you've been playing around with the PTS, on how you have felt about A, this update, and B, everything leading up to Phase 3. Do you think it's going to be the best phase yet? Because I personally do. I'm very excited about Phase 3, and I find myself being even more excited about Phase 3 than I have about Phase 1 and Phase 2. Now, as we've seen, sort of historically, once the final update for the PTS gets released for a given phase, it's usually 2 to 3 weeks, sometimes 2.5 weeks, from release of the final update on the PTS to the actual update dropping on the release build. That includes PC, Xbox, PlayStation, all of those systems. Now, if that is to be the case this time around, we should be looking around the neighborhood of 2 to 3 weeks from now, so sort of mid to late February, and that's kind of what I was expecting from the get-go, and that's pretty close in line to where usually the updates would drop, at least in terms of the timeline. So again, let me know in the comments down there below what you are most excited about in terms of Phase 3, and what you're most excited to do in terms of Phase 3. Now, also, something that I really wanted to touch on is the Cat. Now, the Cat 745C, for a lot of people, it was not really a vehicle that got brought up all that much. However, it does have the ability to haul lumber. And I've shown this on my stream a couple of times, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a very quick, like, run-through build, and we're going to install the short logs carrier on it, but for some reason, the game would not allow me to load the logs onto it in the quick loading area. So I think with that, I think there was probably just something weird going on, maybe some sort of odd glitch, and I'm hoping that that's not a glitch that's sort of packed into this update itself, because if it is, then hopefully they'll fix it before the other one goes live. But I do think this is a really good looking logging add-on, and I think it's one that I would suggest a lot of people using, especially if you enjoy using this vehicle. It definitely breathes some new life into the Cat itself. However, I do think, again, like I said before, it is properly frustrating to drive over to the log loading area and all of a sudden find out, and I was even switching between, you know, the loading platform and the truck itself, and for some reason, I think it was expecting me to have a trailer that I didn't have, even though I had the attachment on the back of the truck. It was looking for a trailer, and it says truck, but at the same time it says your trailer cannot hold this type of cargo. Now, again, it may be some sort of weird glitch, but at the end of the day, I really hope that that's something that gets sorted out before launch, because on the previous version of the PTS, it worked just fine. I was able to actually load lumber into it. I actually did it on a live stream in this very same loading area. I even figured, well, maybe I'll drive out and then drive back in and see if that fixes it, but no such luck on that one. Now, as we are approaching the end of the video, please do let me know in the comments section down there below what trucks you anticipate using the most in terms of your logging efforts throughout the Wisconsin region, because there's a lot of ground to cover, the maps are huge, and of course, there are two other trucks that I am very excited about, both the Boar and the International Twin Steer, which we didn't really touch on them much in this video because, again, those trucks have been seen a lot on my channel already, and I didn't want to really spend a bunch more time on those. I wanted to kind of focus on the trucks that I haven't spent quite as much time on, including the P16, the updated version of the Cat, and also the Pacific P512, of course. And I know that the Pacific P512 kind of had a little bit of a saga there. We were all hoping it would get diff lock and all-wheel drive, or at least most of us were. There were some that were like, no, it does not need all-wheel drive, which again, you know, I think my personal view on that is if it gets all-wheel drive and you don't want all-wheel drive, just don't put it on. But, like, you know, put it in there for the people that kind of want to use it as maybe a little bit more of a primary truck. But yet again, I will go back to the standpoint of it is a very capable truck with both rear axles locked. I just think that it could be just that little bit more capable with a powered front axle, which I'm sure is something that the modding community will sort out in the future. So, hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave me a like. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down there below. And if you are new around here, make sure to subscribe, turn those notifications on, and I will see y'all next time.